In this episode, I'm going to use a Civil War general and something that he did regularly and as an example of what will help you become an effective executive. John Fulton Reynolds. He was a Civil War major general, and some called him a soldier's general. He was born in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and on June 2nd, 1863, General Reynolds met with Abraham Lincoln, where it was rumored that he was offered to be the commander, to become the commander of the Army of the Potomac. Now, he turned it down because he asked Lincoln to keep the politics away. A lot of meddling was going on with some of the previous generals, and in turn, President Lincoln said he couldn't do that. Now, that's the rumor. This is one reason I really like John Fulton Reynolds, is because he recognized the poison that politics represented, especially when you're trying to fight a war. But he was given operational control after that meeting of the left wing of the Army of the Potomac. So this basically gave him operational command of the 1st, the 3rd, the 11th Corps of the Army of the Potomac. Plus, he was also given a cavalry division that was headed by General John Buford. Now, what came next was Gettysburg. And with General Reynolds over these particular divisions, he had General Buford out at McPherson's Ridge. Now, if you've not been to Gettysburg, you may not know what I'm talking about, but you can look up McPherson's Ridge or any of a number of things about the Gettysburg battle. But this is where it all began. As the Confederates moved up Chambersville Pike, the General Buford, his cavalry, ran into them. And they were looking at an army of about 60,000 Confederates versus about 2,500 cavalry run by General Buford. And Buford made a stand because he understood the importance of the land that they were at, and this was an important piece. And this happened on July 1st, 1863. What happened next was General Reynolds showed up and basically relieved General Buford of his command because they'd been fighting all morning, and this was late morning that same day that General Reynolds showed up. But the thing he did, and this you could see it all throughout General Reynolds' commands, was he was always with his army, with his corps. And in this case, he was shot and killed. Rumors are it was a sharpshooter. That seems to be the general consensus from the Confederate side. Some people think friendly fire. There's a whole series of things. And that spot is actually marked at Gettysburg where General Reynolds fell. Shot through basically the neck and killed almost instantly. So what was so important that General Reynolds, I think, is something applicable to becoming an effective executive. He was there. He felt it was so important to be with his men to see what was happening that he decided that he needed to observe so he could make on-the-field decisions about what needed to happen next. Now, most executives rarely go to the work. The interaction points between customers and the front line are so underrated by so many executives that they're incapable of making good decisions without direct observation of what's happening. And that's why I suggest that executives spend anywhere from 10 to 20% of their time uh, in those interactions, either listening or observing what's happening in them. So that's the lesson from this particular episode. Now, the rest of the story on General Reynolds was, as I mentioned, he was shot, he fell, and died pretty much instantly on the field. He was taken to buried in Lancaster, where he was born, at the corner of Lemon and Lime Street. And actually, when I was working with a company out in Lancaster, I went and visited it. It's a little difficult to find, but Lemon and Lime Street is actually a place. And that's where he's buried in Lancaster. So, again, the lesson of this particular episode is you don't have to put your life on the line, but to understand what's going on and make good decisions about what's happening in your organization, one of the requirements of becoming effective executives is to be able to observe the interactions that are happening between your customers and your organization, your frontline people, your product, your service as it's being provisioned. And this will give you insights that you aren't going to get from a spreadsheet or some report or even a filtered verbal report from someone.